There is a real art to reading board papers and making sure you're taking on board all the information that's been supplied to you prior to the board meeting. In an ideal setting, you will have been issued this information well before the board meeting itself, so that you've got time to consider the information, prepare your thoughts, prepare your questions, and really have that full dashboard of information. Often we find board papers or board packs are quite large. There's a fair bit of reading involved. Often the financial reports take up a very large percentage of the pack, and it's really crucial that you're able to read those board papers and understand the true position of the business, where it stands today, what its cash flow position is, what its net asset position is, how the business is travelling, where the hot spots are, where the potential issues are, where the decisions need to be made or calibrated. I personally, really take a lot of time to read the papers. I'll read them through quickly. First up, I'll just do a bit of a scan read, go through all the papers, get a sense for all the topics, all the agenda items, and I like to go from beginning to end reasonably quickly. I don't do the deep dive at this stage. I just like to get a bit of an overall sense of where some of the issues lie in the business, and so that might take me 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, depending on how big the pack is. So it's not completely at a slow pace, but I'm not reading every little detail. I'm not studying papers. I'm not studying the financials to a real great degree, but I'm moving through them at a reasonable pace. I would then take a little bit of a break, and then when I do go back, I'll do a more formal read through the papers, and I'll go through and I'll start to annotate, make my notes, where there are question marks and so on. There's a bit of science in sometimes going to the back of the board pack. Sometimes you find there are things buried in the back of the board pack, hoping no one's going to read those issues. I haven't come across that myself, but I know that's a bit of a thing that people are aware of. So, sometimes you go from back to front to back. But, for me, the most crucial part of the pack is the financials, and truly understanding the costs, the budget, the current cash flow position of the business, where we're losing money, where we're making money, and really having a good handle on that. I've got a current scenario where there is a loss-making enterprise within a group of companies, and it's something to really be paying attention to. And I think we've maybe been a little bit slow to move on the issue, so it's taken quite a few board meetings to get to a point where we're looking at maybe a closure of a business unit that was underperforming. So you really have to pay attention to the finances and where things are at. And as a board director, you need to have that true dashboard of information. So you need to be able to walk into that board meeting really confident that you do know where things are at. Never hesitate to follow up a CFO or a financial director for additional information. If anything's not clear in that board pack, if anything's not clear in the way the finances have been presented, or the way an asset has been treated, or something's been written off and so on. Now, you can obviously ask at the board meetings, but you can also go direct to the CFO. You may be misinterpreting how the finances are being calculated. And you need to be very mindful of the accounting practices for your organisation. Are you doing things on an accrual basis? How are things being presented, so you get that real sense of what you need to be looking for with the papers. Once I've really got a handle on the finances, then I can really then concentrate on the business papers, which may be a bit more focused around the strategy for the organisation going forward. And I'll be reading board papers, obviously looking for board member opinions. And again, I don't hesitate to reach out to board members and discuss their board paper with them prior to the board meeting. The bulk of the board work happens before the board meeting, so don't be afraid to reach out to a colleague who's maybe written a board paper. get some clarity, ask a few questions, set up a time, could ask you a few questions about your board paper before the meeting. That's just good common practice and good common sense, and it can help you form an opinion. Particularly if, let's say, a board paper is coming up and you don't agree with necessarily the board paper, it would be a smart idea, I think, to speak to the author, get their perspective, what things have they considered, why did they rule something out or in, get that, sort of anecdotal feedback that you sometimes can't get off paper, to help form your position so that you can then go into the board meeting armed with the right questions or the right comments that you'd like to make. Really important that you have, done the hard yards. So, the second reading for me is really concentrating on the board papers, the business strategy. First reading for me is around, really zeroing in on that finance position and having that clear dashboard of information. And then making sure that, you've really kind of got a handle across the papers and your preparation is being done going forward. You'd be surprised. A lot of, issues can come up in the board papers. Mistakes can be made. Things can get signed off that shouldn't have been signed off and so on. So, it's really incumbent on each and every board director to do their work. It's like having all these different pairs of eyes on the board papers. This is your record of the business. This is the record of your decision making. This is the record of, how you are operating in a good governance model. So it's really important that these things are right. And of course, having a really good, company secretary or someone who's really informed, who pulls all the board papers together, make sure it's all collated really accurately, very important, so that when you go into the board meeting you've got your accurate pack of information. But it's a really crucial part of the work that we do as board directors and important to get it right.